What if everything you know, your job, your memories, even this podcast, is just code in a computer somewhere? Simulation theory says we might be living in a high-tech illusion. Today, we're diving into the wildest thought experiments of our time. We'll explore where the theory came from, how it gained popularity, and whether there's any evidence that this reality is real. Simulation theory proposes that all of reality, including the Earth and the universe, is in fact an artificial simulation, most likely a computer simulation created by an advanced civilization.
So this theory has philosophical roots in Plato's allegory of the cave, where people are mistaking shadows for reality. It's modern revival in Nick Bostrom's 2003 paper at Oxford University proposes that one of three things must be true. Number one, humanity goes extinct before reaching post-human stage. Number two, advanced civilizations don't run simulations of their ancestors. And number three, we are almost certainly living in a simulation. Now, this theory has gained traction thanks to tech influencers like Elon Musk, who famously said, "There's a 1 in a billion chance that we're in base reality."
All right, guys, do you think we're living in a simulation, or do you think we would know if we were even in a simulation? And Abe, we'll start with you because anything, we work together. And anytime something goes wrong, kind of as a joke, but kind of not, I always say we're in a simulation. But it makes you think, right?
It really does feel like it sometimes. It's weird when things happen. They'll happen over and over again, seemingly for no reason, and it kind of just ties into, it just doesn't really make sense besides, like, is this a program or, like, was this typed out in a way?
But how would we know?
You really don't.
Well, I honestly feel like the reason we ponder these questions is one of the biggest things that humans have always sought is purpose. We are always wanting to know what it was our purpose of being alive. What's our purpose for being here? Now, there's a lot of theoretical things. There's philosophies. There's religions that come into play. There's science. There's all kinds of different ways we try to explain away of why we are here. But as far as the simulation theory goes, you have some absolutely brilliant minds. Like we mentioned Elon Musk earlier, and he's considered the Einstein of our time. I mean, this guy's doing everything. He's building the best electric vehicle. He's putting rockets in space without government. It's just his company. He's putting satellites out there to provide internet for countries that don't have it. He's inventing chips to put in people's brains in order to help them have a higher quality of life. He's just a brilliant guy, and he says he's thoroughly convinced that we live in a simulation just based off of you can get into the idea of creative design, which is something that scientists are increasingly more willing to talk about based off of what they're seeing in the cosmos, of how things are created, the chances of us being conscious beings that can build great things and think and feel and have emotions on this planet is a 1 in an infinitesimal amount of numbers chance of happening. There are so many things that had to go right for us to be here.
They call it like the sexual lottery, like you're that strand of sperm hitting the egg, right? You're in a race, right? It's whoever gets there first. It's, kind of comical to talk about, but you did win the lottery to be here.
Right.
That's you. So you're a percentage of a percentage of a percentage.
Yeah.
Of being here.
Right. Now, based off of all the evidence that we've gathered of how life came into creation or into existence, is there some creative hand behind it?
Well, we're getting ahead of yourself a little bit, but even if you believe in reincarnation, could that be a simulation, right?
Well, it's a process that's been put into place.
Right?
I mean, Einstein said that something can't come from nothing. It's just not feasible. You don't have nothing and all of a sudden there's something. There has to always be a something to put a thing into place.
It's always wild to think about, but you mentioned purpose. a lot of people are always chasing their purpose. You personally, and this is to both of you guys, have you found your purpose in life?
Ugh.
And will you ever? Because you don't know. If you're in a simulation, what we're doing right now may be our purpose. You don't know.
People like to equate it to a video game, right? But there's certain parameters in a video game, like your NPCs, they only do certain things, right? But we equate a lot of people as being NPCs in life. You see this one person, you never have any interaction with them, they do the same thing every day. You run into them at Quick Trip at 6 o'clock in the morning, doing the same fucking thing.
Okay, so me and Abe have talked about that. NPCs. Is that a real thing? Because you run into people where you go, man, is this real? Are they that quirky? Are they that off? You know, why are they here? Is this honestly real?
The one thing that I will say about simulation theory is I think it pulls away from the free will aspect of life.
Well, do people enter your life to, maneuver you a certain way, to forward your chapter?
So at that point, is our purpose just to gather experiences and then move on to another existence?
And that goes back to my original question. Do you feel like you're living out your purpose?
It's so hard to say because from day to day, situations can change. We're living this life. Tomorrow, we could hit the lottery and then we're all millionaires and then our lifestyles change. Do they change for the better? Was this predetermined or was it chance? Do I still exert free will? Do I still live the same way? What's the simulation have for me next?
Okay, so would it feel better if you knew if you were in a simulation or if you weren't?
I do believe it would feel better if you weren't. If you believe that you weren't, because then it's more of a matter of
Decisions are your own.
Yeah, you have free will. You do what you want. It's a lot more independent feeling rather than that you're a part of a simulation of whatever it may be, the whole world, the universe. It feels better to think about it in that sense.
I think even in simulation, you still have free will. It's just there's a different set of rules by whoever put the simulation into play.
Well, that's like a Jesus take the wheel thing. Is that what you're getting at? Like I'm.
That is kind of what it sounds like.
It's more of if you can understand the parameters of the simulation, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, what the rules of the game are, then you're more apt to know how to, quote unquote, win the game, right? If you're not in a simulation, if there is massive amounts of chaos that go on, that's not coordinated, that's governed by no set of rules, then it becomes a lot scarier. Because now you don't know how to navigate certain deals unless it's just experience. And do you honestly want to experience all the chaos out there? I don't.
At the end of the day, would you like to know that your life was a simulation or that you kind of built your own story? Because there is a lot of crazy shit out there.
That's a loaded question as well, because I feel like if at the end of the day I knew that my life was a simulation, it is what it is. There's not much you can do about it. It happened the way that it was going to play out.
People say God's will. Even with pediatric cancer or crazy stuff like that happens, people will say that kind of thing.
At the end of the day, if you feel like it wasn't a simulation, then...
Are you in control right now, Abe?
I think so. If you weren't content with your life, if you weren't content with the way things played out, then I think it would hit you a little bit harder than, I was in a simulation that was supposed to play out that way, instead of...
People grief like that. Oh, yeah. People will grief like that. I worked with a guy that his mother and his sister died in a car wreck. And he said, that's what's supposed to happen. You don't think people grieve like that? That's how he played it out in his mind.
That's a fair point.
That's how some people find the purpose, is they say that this was predetermined, right? But if there's a predetermination, then that means there's no destiny. It means you aren't in control. That's where people get truly scared.
And that's what I'm asking you. Do you guys feel in control? Abe said yes. How do you?
Can I change my answer?
I do not feel like there's largely things that, even with the free will, you could put two people under the same circumstances that have wildly different outcomes. Yes, and it's mind-blowing, right? Sometimes it's by chance how much random chaos is thrown into that, how much of it is creative design. We just don't know. We don't know enough of the facts behind this reality or the simulated reality that we live to be able to know if it's predetermined or if it's actual you creating your own destiny.
Or if we're just making it all up.
Right.
Correct.
Or was this made up by somebody else? They just get the rocks off by sitting back and watching this.
Let's get into the pop culture and modern interest when it comes to simulation theory.
So number one, The Matrix, which was made in 1999. A hacker discovers reality is a simulated illusion controlled by machines. Inspired thousands of thinkers.
Is that your favorite movie?
I love The Matrix.
Yeah.
I went and saw that 9 times in the theater.
Ah.
So.
Hitler 9. Yeah.
Sieg Heil.
Video game parallels, NPCs, open worlds, AI behavior, modern games like Sims, GTA, and No Man's Skies blur realities. I have always said, and you have said it too, Abe, are these NPCs because they act so odd, but you never know.
Number 3, Musk, Kurzweil, and Tech Optimists. The idea that future civilizations would run ancestor simulations of their evolutionary past.
Glitches in the Matrix. People report strange deja vu, time anomalies, and weird coincidences as if the simulation has been glitched. Oh my God, we could go into that for a while.
So that harkens back to The Matrix. They called deja vu a glitch in the Matrix.
We'll get into that here after this next one.
Number 5, TikTok and Reddit theories. Viral stories like time loops, NPC behavior, and people who swear they've seen the fabric of reality shift.
Have you ever experienced something that felt like a glitch in reality?
Yes. I mean, you have... In The Matrix, it was called whenever Neo said, oh, deja vu. And they said, what? Wait, hold on. What'd you see? Well, I saw a cat walk by, and then a split second later, I saw the same cat walk by again. And that was a change in the Matrix, right? Whenever you get into the Mandela effect, simulation theory, there's all kinds of these things. Things happen in life where you're like, something feels off. I've seen this before, or something's not right, or it's strange.
Parallel universes is what...
Yeah, parallel universes. There's theories out there for that. You experience the exact same life with a few minor changes and details in parallel universes. I mean, the list goes on and on and on about where people just feel off for a day, or they feel strange, or they feel like they're in situations that they've either been in before, seen before, even though it's never ever happened to them.
You want to expand on that?
Yeah, so I have more of a personal account. It's nothing too crazy, but what exactly happened is I was, this was in Leavenworth. There's a bridge that goes across a creek. It's maybe 40 feet long. People walk across it all the time. So I was driving towards this bridge, and I remember looking right. There was nobody on, the sidewalk part of the bridge. But as I pass the bridge, I look in my rear view mirror, and I see somebody on the bridge, right? And I'm driving, so I'm like, well, that's weird. So I look back to the road, and then I look back, and they're gone. So they were gone. They're gone. That's it's a small story. It's a short thing, but it was weird to me because it's like they weren't there 2 seconds ago, and then they were, and then they weren't again. It was very weird. It was just a random person, right? It was like some lady, some Mexican lady. It wasn't anything. It's relatively specific too.
And it's happened more than once.
It's happened more than once, yeah. But that was the most odd account that I've witnessed myself of, like, say, like a glitch effect. If in the simulation or the Matrix, it was weird to me because it just didn't make sense. It made no sense to me how they were not there, and then not there again. It didn't work.
How do you reconcile something like that, though? Like, did you think it was real, or did you think your mind was just playing tricks on you?
That's
where did you go with it after you saw that?
I mean, personally, it was just kind of like, what the fuck was that? And then I went on about my day. But in the end sense of things, I feel like it was... I wouldn't really say my mind playing tricks on me because I know what I saw. But at the same time, I can't account it to being something in the Matrix or something odd like that because I don't fully believe in something like that. So it's kind of just up in the air at the moment.
So that brings up an interesting conundrum to me because I think we all experience odd things, just like what you experienced, right? But you shrugged it off and just went on with your day. Something that is so odd and so unexplainable. You didn't stop. You didn't investigate. You didn't call nobody. You just went about your business.
Right, but I've always been thinking about it. It's always been a thing.
Right.
It's something that I've kept in my mind.
Yes, because you couldn't explain it.
Right.
So it lingers, right? But I honestly feel like that's everybody's experience. We have so many odd experiences that we can't explain that sometimes we see the strangest shit ever. We see lights in the sky and we just stare at it, and then once they're gone, we go, go back in and go to bed.
There's another thing that I could talk about. So, Jim, you know about this, the abandoned mall in Leavenworth. Like I had explained to you, there was a theater in that mall. You know it. A lot of other people know it. There was a theater in that mall. So the first time that me and my buddy went to go explore the abandoned mall, right, not in service anymore, boarded up, the first time we went, I remember walking into a theater with seating and, the big open wall that the projector would show on, right? So a couple months later, we went back and I looked for it again because I vividly remembered it, but it just wasn't there. There weren't any signs of deconstruction. There weren't any signs of anything being torn down, right? It was boarded up better to keep homeless people out, to keep kids out like me and my buddy, right? But it just wasn't there. That's probably one of the weirdest accounts that I have that just really doesn't make sense to me because, I mean, you could sum it up to be like, it's just a personal account. It's nothing true, right? You never really know for sure.
Yeah. Did they go ahead and destroy that part of it before you went back?
That's the thing, but that's what I mean, is that the buildings seemed like the same size. It seemed like there was no form of deconstruction because we know what the outside looks like, right? And it didn't get any smaller, but we went back and that whole, 150 square foot, maybe more area was just not there. And it was mind-boggling to me. Because I asked him, I was like, you remember this, right? And he said, yeah. He remembered it too. It just wasn't there.
So, if we are in a simulation, who or why would be running it?
If we want to go the religious route, you have a God that creates the heavens and the earth, the entire universe, and we are here to have experiences. And if it's a game, then there is some questions about free will and destiny. If it isn't a game And it's an actual, hey, I'm going to give you life, and here's some resources, and I just want you to go and live it. Do what you do, right? There's a right way and a wrong way, but I want you to go and figure it out as you go
with that
along.
information.
Yes, and then come back with that information.
And there are theories with that. Hey, go do this, come back with intel. We'll make it better.
Part of the problem there is because there's religious aspects involved, there's definitions of morality, and if it's all about experiences, then it's not all about morality.
So is this theory just modern religion dressed in code?
Well, okay, so once we get into the religious aspect of it, there's a lot of dogma that gets attached to religion.
Yeah.
Right? Incontrovertible truths that faith says is true, even though there's a lack of evidence.
Okay. Yeah. So you got the simulation, God's will, right?
Right.
Same deal. Is it not? Hey, this happened. That was God's will. I have a wreck. That was God's will. Broken leg. That was God's will. Is that not simulation?
I honestly think that is the human experience that doesn't know how to explain what happened.
Okay.
And that's
So
how they cope. It's a coping technique.
Okay.
God's will.
There you go.
Now,
you're getting into my...
is it
but?
already predestined? This is where...
And that's the simulation theory.
That's back to the simulation.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it supposed to happen? Was it just a chain of random chaos that
Am I just
you...
some contradictory fucking dipshit that's in your life?
Right.
Yeah. No, that's what I
Right.
mean.
Am I the contradictory dipshit?
I don't know.
Could also coin it up to being a glitch.
Yeah. I don't know.
Matrix or the simulation, like, oh, this whole time period was a glitch, and you got in that car wreck because
I know I don't like you guys.
it glitched out, and you weren't. It wasn't supposed to happen like that, but it did because it was a glitch. You know.
I just had deja vu. I could have swore Jim told me that before.
All right, so we're going to go into arguments for simulation theory, computational power. They say future civilizations could simulate billions of consciousnesses.
That's wild to think about.
That is nuts. I mean, and I don't know how. I don't think that
you have to have a lot of AI power in order to
Right.
do that.
Yeah.
So the next one would be mathematical universe. Reality appears governed by elegant math. Maybe it's code.
Quantum weirdness. Particles behave differently when observed like a rendered environment. Oh my God. There are so many theories on that when it comes to, hey.
The double slit experiment.
Well, when you expect more out of somebody, they do better, or there are theories on that.
Consciousness unexplained. We still don't fully understand what consciousness is or how to prove it is actually quote unquote real.
I think that's where we're at. Simulation within simulation. Infinite regress. If we're simulated, is our simulator also simulated?
That's going down a hell of a rabbit hole.
No, but that's where we're at. We don't know.
Philosophical cop-out. Critics argue it's just another way to avoid tough existential questions.
All right, guys, would it change your behavior if you knew that reality wasn't real?
I think it would. I think I would act out in a bit of a different way.
Brash?
A bit more rash. Not really give much care to what people think about what I do. Because it's all a simulation, you know, it's all predetermined. So it's not too important what other people think about me, because whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Whatever's happening was a predetermined outcome. It's, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what I do, because what I was going to do was already thought out.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen that way.
There's no contradictions. There's no, hey, should I do this or that? Because just do it.
And if you think that way, then it's like you don't feel bad for the things that you may do, right? Because
That's
it's all
fucking nuts.
it's all predetermined.
That's nuts.
It doesn't matter what happens because you're not at fault. The simulation is. The simulation puts you in that position to do said thing. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
you agree?
You know what I mean?
So let me expound
I
on
agree.
something. If you are a byproduct of code, you react to the code, right? There is no free will.
Exactly.
You don't act out more, you don't act out less. You act exactly how you're supposed to act. Even if you know you're a simulation, you are already given the exact code for you to be who you are.
Okay, so if this is a simulation, does it make morality meaningless?
Ooh.
To a certain point,
Or
I think
more
it does.
meaningful? Because you're doing what they want, right? We're doing what they want. They want info. They want data.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Are we truly making choices, or are they already pre-written?
If your experiences, relationships, and emotions feel real, then who cares if they're simulated?
Is this just the digital age version of believing in a creator or higher power?
Okay, so would knowing it's all fake make life more precious or less? I would think it'd be less. And I'm not speaking for you guys, but if this was all planned out and everything, and I'm just the character in the show, I don't think I'd be more into it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you're just going to be this guy doing this stuff, married to this woman, doing this thing.
This is partially where
Every thrust counts.
every thrust counts. So, in this situation specifically, this is where delusion can come in. So, if you truly believe that you are in a simulation and that everything is predetermined, you can delude yourself to think, I am now making my own choices. I'm going to go rob that bank. I'm going to get back with that girl that I absolutely hated, you know? But you can also say that that was all predetermined.
What
as
if
well.
you could hack the simulation? What would you change? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. So it's a tough question, really, because I mean, you can think. It all goes back to the fact that it is.
You could think that you're hacking it, right? Oh, look at me. I'm beating the simulation. But the simulation is you beating the simulation.
Exactly. Yeah.
My God.
Right. And once you beat it, what comes after that? Does it just end? Does everything go black?
Who knows for you?
Do you go back to the source code?
That's a good point. Yeah.
What happens?
Is base reality even something we want to find? I'm telling you.
I mean, there's some people that just thrive off of wanting to know quote unquote truth.
Yeah.
Right? I want to know what my origins are. If my origin is I'm just a bunch of numbers and some digital ethos, you know, in the atmosphere.
I mean, it feels like just talking to you guys. It feels like maybe Brandon wants to go with the flow a little bit or is willing to accept it. And it feels like Abe wants to buck against it and think that he's hacking against it. When all of you guys are probably all the same path.
This is all part of the simulation.
Right.
It all goes back to the simulation.
Right.
You can think that you're doing a certain thing. You can think that you're making your own choice. You can, oh yeah, you broke the simulation. Yeah, you know, religion is the answer. But in reality, if your belief is that everything is a simulation, it's all predetermined. It's not real. It's fake. Everything that you do was meant to be from the start, ever since you were first born, quote unquote, as a code. It was all meant to happen. You were meant to break the simulation. You were meant to trust religion as the only source of, you know, reality. It's Weird. Very, very weird.
You're fucking weird.
No, you're weird.
Oh, I digress. Sorry. No, I mean it is kind of a strange mind fuck because you do not know predestiny, free will. Which is it? What's the truth? Right? So we become scientists and we're just constantly trying to find out what's real, what's not real, what's simulated.
You were meant to become a scientist.
What if every single one of those scientists was meant to become, like you said, a scientist and investigate said topics?
You're the contrarian.
Exactly.
Holy shit, boys.
If it all boils down to the fact that if it is truly a simulation, more so the fact that if you believe it is a simulation, everything happens in a predetermined way, and you will never get a solid answer. There is no solid answer because everything is predetermined. So the only answer is whatever you come up with in that simulation before your code ends.
Right. So, excuse me. You had said that if you knew it was a simulation, you would do things differently.
Sure.
Right? What if your source code doesn't allow you to do things differently, though? That's the next question.
Well, then you're consciously in a body that can't act for itself.
Right. So now it's
you can't.
It's predestiny.
You can't do anything.
It's predetermined. There is no such thing as free will at that point.